Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to explore the spirit realm, and my guest is Tammi Grantham. Now, Tammi and I have been working together for the last 3 years. She does what is known as soul sessions, and you can tell in the beginning part of this podcast, I tried to come up with the label that she has, and I wasn't sure to whether to call her my spirit guide or my soul guide, and she just doesn't like labels. You'll find this out really quick. I'm sure you're going to fall in love with her as much as I do. She is absolutely wonderful. We get into conversations about the places that she's taken me in the spirit realm, how she reads people, what she considers the reason why we're here on earth. She's very clear on that. And I got to tell you that every time I meet with her and talk to her, I leave feeling relaxed, joyful, and way more enthusiastic about my future and the future for all of us. Um, there are so many areas that we go down on this podcast, a little bit longer than the normal ones. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did recording it. Again, Tammi is fantastic. There's going to be some resources at the end. You'll be able to find ways to work with her. Highly recommend it. But without further ado, let's go explore. Tammi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How excited are you about doing this? Be honest.
My child is super excited. My adult side of me is a little nervous, but I'm actually quite excited to step into this realm.
This is so cool. For the listeners there, same as the podcast we did with Denise Graham's, Tammi has not done one of these podcasts before either. And so this is a first for both of them. And I'm really, really looking forward to introducing both of them to the world. We've done that with Denise now. She was in the second podcast. And now we're going to introduce Tammi to the world. And Tammi, you have done some incredible work with me. We were talking just before we got onto the podcast here. I'm like, what exactly would I call you? Like, are you my soul guide? My intuitive coach. And then you were like, you don't really do labels, do you?
No, I consider myself a stepping stone. That's how I look. Well, a stepping stone. So when people come here, I like to tap into their souls. I want them to go forward. I can do the mediumship. I can do the past lives. I have a modality, a variety of things that I can do, but I want to be that stepping stone to your next step. I don't want to get to your outcome. I just want to be your stepping stone and help you advance.
You and I've talked about this before in our sessions together, and the soul sessions that I do with Tammi. So that's what I came to this idea. That's like, I'm just going to say, Tammi helps me in my soul sessions. It's like having a flashlight in the fog. You can only see just in front, not that far in front of you. And you're helping us find that next stepping stone in that fog of our life and trying to figure out where the next step is.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And doing it in a fun, joyful, playful way where it's not stressful and flowing. You are the master of flow and fun. Like, just being in your presence makes me relax. And I go, I take myself too damn seriously. I'm too wound up. And soon as we get together, I'm like, oh, right. Chill.
Because it's all about play. We forget that we're little kids in big bodies. And the importance in this lifetime is to play and be a human being, not a human doing, and have a balance of both. So play is big for me.
I love playing as well. And you and I have done a lot of work around that in terms of my growth and breaking free from my past conditioning of thinking that I got to be all important and intellectual and adult. But when I'm having the most fun is when I'm just playing like a kid, right? Mm-hmm. You've seen it. You've seen my band play. You've seen me when I'm playing in my band. Like, I'm in a flow state there. When I'm playing heavy metal music, I'm happy as I could ever be. And you have helped me unlock that. And that's why I wanted to share you with all of my listeners and the world to say, this is this amazing gift that you have, that you found your purpose on helping people find their next step.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
So for someone who's never done any soul work or spiritual work with a spiritual guide as yourself, and I was coming up with that label, sorry for the label, spiritual guide, but you're a guide for me through this area I've never been before. I'm exploring an area that I didn't even know I could tap into. What is kind of the process that you go through to help the person find the first step? Like, how do you even know where to start?
I tend to feel people about 2, 3 days prior to, and that will be on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual level. I will pick up their energy field. So if they have headaches, I'll end up with headaches. If they have cravings, whatever it is. So I tend to pick up on their energy field. And then the day of, I tend to channel in. So I spend about 30 minutes writing what do they need in order for to go forward. That's that's my intention. Is what can we do to help Eric say go forward? What's his next thing? And sometimes it's fun and sometimes they're not as fun. They're a little bit more in depth with the conditioning and the programming, right?
And it gets gritty and painful and areas that I can say from my experience, I didn't want to look at.
Yeah. Right? That shadow, the shadow side. But that's where the growth is within that shadow of ourself. And that's what brings me joy when people take a look at the way we are conditioned and programmed. And then they can go, oh, now that all makes sense. Okay. And it's just I call it a different language of looking at things. Right. And so when we start to look at that and we get into the areas of their lives, and then they can see the patterning, which sacred geometry, the patterning of how things happen and why we keep doing the same conditions over and over again. And then we break those patterns. So in my channelings, it will tell me a little bit of why you're here. And I usually will say, okay, this is where we're going to start. I love birthdays. I love numerology. So I love finding out where people are in the beginning. So I always find out what year they're on. And that gives me just that little bit of step. I want to get the beginning step because a lot of people come in here with expectations. And I don't do expectations because expectation for me equals disappointment. So I want them to open up and just relax. And so we play. My room is full of stuff that it has inner child work. So they're always looking around and getting distracted. And once they're distracted, I'm able to get into their field. So
So we have to get out of our mental way for you to
yeah.
be able to get us to focus on where we need to focus on next.
Yeah.
What I really like to do is kind of get a little more terra firma on this and go into like the specific modalities that you do. We've kind of talked in generalities of how you're approaching someone, but y- what are all the different modalities that you work in?
To me, spirit comes in so many levels. So I really just listen to what they say. So usually I channel that in, I hear them. I use all the 5 clears. Um,
What are the 5 clairs? What does that mean?
You're gonna get me to say these words and I can't say them, like clear audio, like being able to hear spirit, being able to see spirit, being able to taste, smell. So I have all of them from the other side. I can smell roses, for example, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I smell roses." So if I can smell them, then the person who sits across me can as well. So this is how, or I taste something. I can like taste apple pie and like, did your mom or grandma make apple pie? Like, and they're like, yeah. So I tap into these different modalities and then I do mediumship as well. It's not my prime thing that I want to do. If we have somebody on the other side who wants to communicate and help you, sure, come on in. But it's not my, I don't know how to word it, but to do mediumship for an hour is not why I do this. Because to me, I want to be that stepping stone. And if we need that grandparent to come forward or that mom or dad to say, hey, I'm okay. But we're here for lessons. We're here to experience. We're here to learn. And my thing is to help people learn. And so I get people to pay attention. I make them become aware. So when you see that hummingbird and you're walking and it comes up to your face, that's the universe is saying, hey, there's some joy and healing that's coming your way. Maybe you need to pay attention. Or my favorite, the owl. When the owl shows up, we don't go backwards. We literally need to listen. And that owl shows up 9 months later, there's a change. And that's what happened with me. Because I had a nursing career and the owl showed up on my way to my job. And I knew at that point, and I can't say how I knew because I just knew that owl says it's time to fly. I've been intuitive my whole life. Like Denise, I started with astrology, loved it, and just kept hearing things and dreaming and knowing. And so with the owl, when it showed up, I knew I had 9 months to figure out how I was getting into this. And I had been doing this for 30 years, but more so the last, I'd say 10, 15 that I've been playing. So, yeah. So, and it did within 9 months, almost to the day, I was out of nursing. So, that's what I want.
That's what you want. You want to help people unpack and see where they're going, what
Yeah.
their purpose is. Like we've talked about the Viking Academy
Yes.
so much, and that you are another beautiful catalyst that has brought the Viking Academy to the world. And for me to live my passion now is I see it so clearly now. I see that clarity of what I'm here to do, and what I'm doing is playing. The more I play and have fun, the easier it is, and the more joy I have.
Right? And then we can have these fun experiences, and then we can have the balance between the human doing, as I call it, and then that human being, right? We're not programmed just to just do. The play is really our purpose. It really is. And we spend lifetimes in jobs, and then we have this creative outlet that we're like, oh, if I could turn that into a job. Well, that's the purpose. If you can turn that into a job, you found your purpose. But people get stuck on the how. Well, how am I going to do it? And I always say, get rid of the how. How is fear and doubt. Okay? Just start taking the step, one step at a time, and it will be revealed the next step. And you have to do some action, right?
That's that radical trust in the universe, that the universe has got your back. And
Yeah.
for me, I've had that experience over my lifetime. I've experienced it enough now that I know it works. I know the universe is working for me, not against me, but I'm not 100% on board with it all the time, because I get caught in my head, and then I get scared and I get paralyzed, and what if people think badly of me? Like even launching the Viking Academy was like, oh shit, now what happens if people
Right.
start saying, Erica, what are you talking about all this woo-woo stuff? Like you're supposed to be an accountant, business coach. Why now you're going into the woo-woo realm? Who are you to do this? Right? Those are I call it the negative voices in my head. When I've been with you and I've worked through, and I was looking at the dates, it's actually almost to the day, 3 years.
Wow.
3 years to the day, okay, that you and I
One of
work
our
together.
favorite numbers.
I know
3.
favorite numbers, right? Mind, body, spirit, the magic of threes. Now here we are doing this. You've helped unlock so many of those layers for me. And looking back, I find looking back in 2020 going, oh, I get it now. That's why that happened. I needed to experience that to become this. I had to become an accountant to feel that I didn't really want to do that. And what I really wanted was music and expressing myself in the way with the Viking Academy. For yourself, you look back and you said you always knew you were an intuitive.
Mhm.
I've always kind of known in my belly that I was not really doing what I was here to do or meant to do. And I don't know how many of the listeners have ever felt that, but if you're anything like me, there's always been this nagging feeling that there's more to what's going on here, and I'm not in alignment with my purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And part of that is those stepping stones to get where you needed to get to. Right? Each job we take, each things that we partake in are all stepping stones, right? I had those same things. My mom was like, my mother is very psychic as well. And she's just like, don't do this gifts. No, you don't tell people their stuff because of judgment. right? We're all afraid to be judged. And it's like, I don't care. I'm like, if I help somebody move forward, let's move forward. Because the thing is, we just all want to be happy, right? We want to find reward, something that's rewarding within us. And we need to get to the next step. We need to keep going the next step. The key code is to ask. And people don't want to ask.
How do we ask?
Well, mine is I always just look up and I'm like, okay, you guys, show me the way. Bring me the people that I need in order to go forward. Okay. When I was looking for a tattoo artist, I'm like, hey, universe, I made a client who's an amazing tattoo artist. Poof. Within a week, they came to me. So, but we have to ask, right? When we ask for what we want, but then we need to release the attachment in getting it. Because I didn't have the attachment. I knew when the time would come right, it would show up. And that's the thing. We plant those seeds in our gardens. We plant them and then people are watering them and like, okay, grow, grow, grow. And it's like, no, just allow space and time. Right. And I always look at what universe sends me. Like, oh, they'll send me birds. They'll send me numbers. They'll send these little magic dimes to say, hey, we're on the right track, or you'll just meet somebody who will kind of give you that aha moment. And it's like, yeah, okay, now I'm over here.
You know what I love is that every time I'm with you and we're talking, I feel so at ease and there's a playful, light energy around you and that I pick up on, which is just reminding me how important it is for all of us to tap into that and talk about these things and to talk about it openly and have you on this podcast. And now we're projecting this to the world. Like anyone in the world now can hear about Tammi and about what Tammi can do. And it's giving us permission to tap back into who we always have been, but just have forgotten.
Yes. Yes. And we came here as an unconditional love, right? And then we get conditioned into the ancestors, the programmings, the generations behind us. And we have also come here to clear as part of our purpose. And through these experience and lessons that we take, this is how we clear it.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Mhm.
Because for me, that was another huge aha moment around the work that we've been doing together, is that the work that I'm doing with you, every once in a while I get worried that I'm being too selfish, because that self-centeredness, selfishness is one of those things I have to be constantly vigilant on, with what's happened to me in the past with my alcoholism and the drinking. I have to be careful about my ego. Alcoholism is a disease of the ego. So I'm always kind of double checking, making sure, okay, is this being selfish or is this being right? When you expressed to me that the work that I was doing with you to break this past conditioning is actually helping not just me, but my entire lineage.
Yes.
Did I remember that right?
And going forward. So your daughter, your sons, all of those, right? Your son and daughters, those too, because they will carry on what we don't do. So our children are reflections of what we still need to do and learn. So I'll look at my daughter and I'm like, and I'll say to my partner, oh, that's yours. Even though I've learned from some of it, but I can look at her where she may be struggling or trying to people please or trying to fit in. And I go, okay, some of this is mine. So this is where I still need to look at within myself to grow on that inner level, because everything on the outside of us, right? It's the inner journey. It's not all the stuff we collect. That's just trying to make the ride a little bit better, like enjoy. But it's none of this out stuff does anything for us. It's just the inner journey of healing and stepping into who we are. And I wouldn't say you are selfish. Sometimes we have to use self-care.
For me, that's always been a tricky balance.
Yeah.
Is when am I being selfless, when am I being selfless, when am I being selfish, and when am I having self-care? Self-care feels to me like that middle of the road, which is a recognition that self-care myself is bigger than just me. It's taking care of me and all of everything around me. So it's that concept of oneness. Like, and one of the things I really wanted to get into on this podcast with everybody and to share this, because it's still something that blows my mind, and I get it sometimes, and then sometimes it goes poof and it disappears. You said to me that people that I run into, the people that I'm interacting with, are either my past, present, or future self.
Higher self. Yeah.
Higher self. Can you elaborate on that for the listeners? Because that one to me, again, sometimes I get it and sometimes it just goes right by me.
So if they're my past self, usually they'll trigger me in some way, right? And I'll look and I'm like, have I actually done the work to clear that? And if I know I have, it's usually that I have to learn to have more compassion for them. There's a part of myself that I don't have compassion for. So if they're my present self, we're on the same page. We're walking together on the journey right here, right now, presently. If they're my higher self, they're here to teach me. They're going to give me those I call codes. You've heard me say that a lot. But we can have them all three. So if I have a past and a present self come forward and I look at them and like, okay, there's something from my past that presently is still affecting me. I need to go back and clean up because the pattern will show itself over and over again. Where sometimes I'm just on the present, the person's definitely not my past, and my higher self comes forward, and they're here to teach me. So I need to listen, and I ask myself, am I being teachable?
It's the balance of trusting the internal voice inside you with what you're seeing outside you. I see this balance between the outside and the inside. So what's inside me and what's outside me, it seems to be like a reflection.
Mhm.
A lot, very much a reflection. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, your outside is just a reflection of what's going on in your insides. So if you're good in your insides, your outsides will change as a result of that. I've had moments of that where because if I go into somewhere with a great attitude and I'm going to be happy and I'm glowing on the inside, all this amazing stuff happens on the outside. But if I'm
Mhm.
not quite right on the inside, and then all the stuff goes sideways on the outside. But it's that, do you know where I'm going here? I'm like
Yep.
trying to
Yep.
articulate, and this is for the listener. I'm exploring this along with you. Like this is a journey for all of us to do at the same time. Some of us will be in different levels of awareness or experience or aha-ness. So like these, oh yeah, I got that. But ultimately, when we're going and doing this together and exploring this, it becomes, I find, less stressful and I feel more inclusive with everybody else. So I'm trying to figure this out as we go along here on this podcast. As I'm interviewing people, I'm trying to articulate this concept I'm having of this inside and the outside. Can you help me with this, Tammi?
That's what I'm looking at. If something is in the past for me, right? It's just the past. And I see that. Why do I want to go back? I need to let that go, right? So if I get triggered, it's a reminder to let it go.
So being triggered by something in your past is a reminder for you to let go of that past. So you need to
Yeah.
do some work on that to release it.
Yes, because you're still carrying it
Right.
on an inner level.
And so that work we're talking about is me going and seeing you. And part of that is maybe working with you and you're helping me see that and unlock it with the work we do together.
So when I look at you, Eric, you're my past, present, and higher self. Okay. We've had some similar backgrounds. Okay. Presently, we're all both moving forward in the same direction. And higher self, you're teaching me different ways to articulate some of my things in my life that maybe I wouldn't have looked at because I tend to look at things in a childlike way because that's spirit, it's play. So, for example, when I hear the word overwhelm, I know my inner child needs to play.
This concept of the reflection of people outside of myself, on the outside, being a past, present, or higher self. That's also, I had past, present, and future self, but you're telling me it's past, present, and higher self. It's still one that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. It's still one that's not quite there yet.
Okay.
but I have moments of it. Like I told you that one time, I had a instant recognition of everything being me. Like it was all me. Everything's
Yeah.
me. Everything is me,
Yes.
but not in a complete egoic sense, just in a factual sense that, oh, these are my insides. Those are my outsides. It's all me.
Yes. But it's a knowing. It comes from the mind, right? The mind will be in survival mode, and then knowing. When you have that knowing, you dropped into your heart.
And that knowing is the part that I've been talking about inadvertently throughout the entire Viking Academy ethos, which is once you discover, unlike like the key that unlocks the portal for you to discover your purpose in life. Once you know, you become seated in the self. You like know that this is what you're supposed to do. This leads me to the question that I wanted to ask you, which was, when did you know? When did you get, this is what I was meant to be and do, is being Tammi, the soul session, the soul guide, the spirit guide. Again, you don't like your labels, but I'm trying to pick something that works here. How did you know when that was the case? Because you just told me that you've always had this all along. Did you always know all along that you were eventually going to get to this point and you just didn't want to deal with it back then? Or like, how did you
I didn't
know?
yeah, I didn't wanna do this, okay? Because I was programmed, conditioned at a young age that this is not good. Too many past lives of being burned, so to speak, judged. So, for me, I always knew I always knew. However, when they told me that I was gonna do this, my first thing was, "Nah, free will, sorry, not happening." So, I, had my career in nursing. I was very content with it, and they just said, "Well, so when we want you to do something, we will put roadblocks and things in the way in order for you to get on the path that you are actually meant to be, your purpose. And so we can avoid it, but eventually these roadblocks finally came forward where I just went, fine, I have to surrender because I no longer, I keep keep hitting my head against the wall. Work started becoming less compassionate, let's say. And I just went, okay, you guys want me to do this? All right, you guys bring me the people. And I see you guys, I use my spirit team, okay? So you guys bring me the people. I'm not going to advertise. I'm not going to sit there and show who I am. And it literally started with one person coming forward, and it grew. And it was, as it grew, it literally then became like, I need a website. I need that. But I had no desire for that. There was no like, oh, and they're like, because I wasn't looking at this as my purpose. This was just like, oh, okay, well, it's no different. Like, you're an accountant. I can help you out there. Right. I didn't think it was going to be a lifetime journey. And now that I'm seated in it, I'm just like, okay, now I get it, you guys. Now I just listen. It's just much easier to listen to them than it is to try and navigate this world on your own.
That trusting the inner voice and the inner calling that you've had. I've had so many times when my inner voice said, don't go there. And I went there, I got burned. Right. And it was interesting. I've read up on Socrates, and Socrates, one of the greatest thinkers of kind of modern time, if you want to think of Socrates as like the great thinker, had what he called his daimonian, daimonian, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, daimonian, which was his inner voice, which he followed, and it told him when to not go somewhere. So it was like a negative voice. He listened to the voice when it said, do not go this way. And he went, okay, I won't. And I'm going to start doing this. And if he didn't hear no, it was like, okay, then it's a possibility to yes, I'm going to go that way. And so is there something to that, listening to the negative when you hear that no, that stop? When do you know that that's it telling you not to go that versus your conditioned fear saying, oh, no, don't go there? Like, how do you know the difference? How can we find the difference?
Well, one, it's a feeling for me. So it's just a feeling in my body that says, go this way. And then sometimes I do. I'll question it. That's when I ask for validation. Give me the numbers. Give me 3 numbers in a row, whatever it is. But for me, it's a feeling. It's a gut. Our gut instinct. that knowing, right? That's what it is for me. It took me a long time to learn how to trust that because I didn't listen to them a lot of times. And it wasn't until, there was some moments in my life where I just went, all right, I get it. But we're not, to actually listen to that, we're programmed as a child, like, you're going to be crazy. You're going to be seen as crazy or whatever. Right. And I feel in my life now that it's just easier to just listen to that instinct. And there's still times even now where I will go, okay, you guys, I'm really stuck on this decision. And they're like, okay, we'll ask.
And that brings me back. I did write something down when you talked about that. I wanted to come back to it. You said, and I'm coming up with threes again: ask, release, watch. So
Pay attention.
ask, yeah, release, pay attention.
Yes.
Like that. Ask,
Yeah.
then release, then pay attention.
Yeah.
And just practice that and see what happens.
Yeah.
So you told me, for the listener here, I got to share this story. You told me about the hummingbird. You said when the hummingbird shows up, and I think you said it was my grandmother at that time. My grandmother said, when you see the grandmother, that's the hummingbird saying, "Oh, Eric, you're fine. That's your grandma." I walked out, and sure enough, after one of our sessions, zoom, hummingbird came right by me, said hi, and then took off. It's like, whoa. But it's the story of the owl. When you told me when the owl shows up, that's going to be 9 months later, you're going to have a major shift. Well, I had this crash that happened about a month or two ago against the house, and I heard this shattering, and I was like, what was that? And I went downstairs. It was midnight, went down with a flashlight, looked in sliding glass window. I looked down, there was this thing on the ground outside, and I put the flashlight on it, and it was an owl. He had crashed into the window of the house, and there's still an imprint on my window, on my sliding glass window right there. He had crashed and hit the ground, and I had actually just recently bought a carving of an owl outside the house. So it looked like the owl was sitting there looking at the carving of the owl going, "Did you just hit me over the head, you asshole?" Right? And then finally the owl turned around and looked at me with the flashlight, and he took off. And I was like, oh my God. So I contacted you, and you were just like smiling and giggling. You're like, yeah.
Wow. And that's like, I loved how you said that. Did you hit me over the head, asshole? Right? That's what the owl does. And this is why I want people to wake up to it. It's like, okay, get ready. When the owl showed up on my way to work in the middle of the road, it was just like, okay, the signs are there, but we don't know the wording, or we haven't been educated in looking for it. Or knowing, like when the eagle shows up, it's the bigger picture. The hummingbird is joy and healing. The hawk, you keep seeing the hawk, the universe is saying, pay attention to your soul purpose, right? So when you see these things, or you see things that are like repetitive, look them up. We have sources everywhere on the internet, or know somebody. They will give you an idea or some type of definition of what it is. Right?
Like repeating number sequences. Cause I
Yes.
often do that. As soon as I see these, like I see 1111 showing up all the time, or it's 111, 1111, and this repeating number sequence. And I'll start looking at it online and saying, well, the angel numbers, what is it trying to tell me?
Yes. So 111 would be stay positive. Okay, keep going. Right? 1111, you're waking up to more. Okay, are you ready for that? The 1111 is that spiritual awakening that says, are we ready? Okay, even if we're not ready, it's time to dive in. The owl was saying, I'm getting your attention, Eric. You might want to just stay in this, account and keep on going forward. But no, the owl showed up, and you're going to notice within 9 months from when that happens, how much things are going to shift just from that.
I'm already noticing major changes as I've started to kind of go down this new path, this going down the Viking Academy route, and kind of pulling myself away from my traditional businesses that I still have, and they're still running, and I'm still taking care of them. But it's almost like the energy and the joy is down this path, and it's becoming more fun, and it's way easier. This business is so much easier to get started and to go with than any of my businesses I've ever dealt with in the past. This
You're
one,
in the flow. You're flowing.
and so that's again for the listeners. How do we know? How can you get into the flow? Everybody talks about flow state. How do you get in there?
Well, when you listen, okay, that's, we need to listen. So when we see the signs, we need to go, oh, okay, that might have been a sign. Okay. And so if there's roadblocks in your way, if one thing after another is a roadblock, the universe is saying that's not the way to go. But we don't. We're not. We're gonna be, listen to that ego that says keep going. No, if you just push yourself, you will get it. And it's just like, so we enjoy suffering in this world because we keep pushing instead of flowing.
Everything in my traditional training, my parents came here with nothing. They were very industrious, Northern European, work hard, work hard, work hard, go, 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 make it happen. And the internet today is all about, you want to be a millionaire, get to work hard, work harder, work harder. And it's this push, push, push. And trying to balance those two, because I'm a very A-type personality, go, get things done, take responsibility, rawr. And at the same time, I'm like, whenever I relax and let things happen, it's like, wow, this is really kind of fun and easy. It's that balance between the two. There's the middle way. It's that asking, releasing, and then when it shows me some signs, to actually making the steps to make it happen, like do the work to make it happen. But it's that balance between the two that I have a fucking hell of a time with.
Well, it's trusting, right? Are we programmed to trust?
No.
Right? So we spend most of our lives following the leader when we are the leader.
Oh. Say that again.
Well, we spend most of our lives after being conditioned following the leader instead of being the leader because it's not safe to be the leader. It's not safe to step out of that, that zone, the woo-hoo, all that. Like, get your degree, get this, you will be somebody. Therefore, you are someone on this earth. But this is not what this earth is about. It's about joy and love and being human beings. We're called human beings, not the human doing.
Here's one of the ahas that I've kind of had. I wanted you to give me some feedback on this one. If we had not experienced the unconsciousness of being a human doing, how could we have ever experienced the experience of being a human being? So what we're talking about here is not judging our past for being bad, but just going, oh, I had to experience that unconscious phase and that conditioning to wake up to going, oh no, this is what it's about. Because without the dark, I don't have the light. It's this opposites. If I didn't have that unconsciousness past and that horrible experience that I had and the unconsciousness, I wouldn't have never woken up.
Yeah. And that's that ancestral, right? That's tied into the ancestral. Throughout the generations, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Right?
Is that what you're seeing overall? Like, do you pick up on the entire, shall we call it the whole world, the energy of the entire world? Are you feeling an awakening happening at that level?
Yes. Because we're not going to be bought into the slavery of the conditioning of human doing. We're all waking up to being human beings because as you woke up to being a human being and you realize you don't have to work as much, working smarter, not harder, and then getting the same amount coming forward to still survive, right? And so then your daughter and your children will be able to see, okay, you know what? Maybe I have a creativity in art and I could sell my art because she believes in herself.
Oh, we're having a hell of a time right now because Isla she doesn't have her basic math and we're trying to get her math skills up because it's not there. She is so violently against that math. It's a big crying freak out session when we're trying to just get her up to a certain level. And half the time I'm thinking they're going, but she's such an artist and a creative expressiveness. Like, I don't want to squash that, but at the same time, how do I balance that with her understanding at least how to do basic math?
Well, does she love reading?
Loves it.
Yeah, because to me, there's two people in this world. The ones who love to read and love the English side of this, and then there's the math ones, right? And so by embracing her creativity, right, she may not be an accountant, right? Math may not be her thing. It's giving her the basic, right, of what she wants to do, but also encouraging her to expand and do what she loves. You know, she'll know the basics on how to. This world is going to calculators, where we're not having to have, doing long math. They need to have the basic skill of it, but at the same time, I honestly think her skills would be more in with that, the English, like the creativity side. My daughter's the exact same, we got the basics of her math down, but she's like, I'll just pull up my phone, mom, you know? Right? The world they're heading into, we don't have to do the old school math anymore. It won't be there. Just as if she can add, it'll be great. We're going to have so many changes coming up in this next 2 years, where the world shifts, and it's one of those things where you got to just trust in her and know that as long as she's got the basics, she knows how to add, subtract, times tables, divide to some degree. That's it, right? If she wants to later on do something in that, then she will actually go into that education and she'll want to learn it.
Yeah, just for clarity, I in no way, shape, or form want to push her to be an accountant ever.
Yeah.
Okay, that ain't not happening on my watch. This kid is such an expressive, artistic. No, 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 no. That is not happening. So, thank you for sharing that. It's for me, it's that balance of knowing how much is enough and how much isn't enough. And this kind of moves me to another question. When we talk about letting go and letting things flow and asking the universe and it's bringing us what we want, I find and again, this is me because I'm an extremist. I go to one extreme versus the other, and you're giggling and smiling at me right now. If anybody's watching the video, you see Tammy smiling and laughing because she knows, yeah, I know, Eric, this is the way you are. But when does it go from allowing and letting everything flow and being part of that flow versus a hedonism, nihilism, I am just in it for me and get all I want? Like I should be given everything on a platter. Do you know what I mean? Like that entitlement attitude of I'm just entitled to more and you just give me more handouts. So it's like it's almost a difference between childlike and childish.
Yeah. Well, entitlement comes from the ego.
Right.
So there's a lesson that needs to be learned there, right? So they haven't learned that lesson yet or that experience because we tend to want to give more. And then that extremist is the all or nothing, which is still a bit of you might be in survival mode, just a bit, right? So when we drop into our heart, that's again that dropping in and knowing when we know it just is. That's that. I don't know how to explain it. It just is. So there's moments I'll go into the survival and I just step back. I'm like, okay, what is this teaching me? I'm in survival mode and why am I feeling it? And it's like there's a part of me from my childhood that maybe my needs weren't met or I did not know how to learn it or I wasn't shown support, whatever it is. Right. So it's then reopening that section to learn. Okay. Entitlements coming forward when we tend to give and give and give and give and we don't know how to receive. And receiving is why we're here, to learn how. This is why people put blocks in that way. You'll find them, such give, I'll give and I'll give and I give, but they don't ask for anything. They don't receive anything back and there's an imbalance. And we're here just to be balanced.
I think that's where the balance is coming in. And you said something there that gave me a visual of dropping into the heart, is getting out of the head. Because whenever I'm in fear, fight or flight, I'm in the head, like my head goes nuts and I'm thinking too much. But if I drop down into my heart, I start feeling that peace and that relaxing. But it's almost as if when I drop into my heart, I've actually integrated my mind, my body, and spirit all together in one spot because I feel it physically. My brain can be clearer and I can see things better with my brain. My body, I feel it in my body, but I feel it in my spirit as well. Like it's like that heart-centered feeling is like an integration of those three pieces.
Yes, exactly. And so we're so busy up in here in this, and I call it the survival brain, right? And we're going, going, going. And I just take a deep breath in And in that moment, I'm dropped now into my body. And then what is our body saying to us? Because half the time we're not listening to that either, right? But if there's peace, then that's good. But if there's physical elements, what is it saying? Most of us just live here and it's like, oh, well, do you get body aches? Do you have pain? They're like, well, yeah, I do. Well, your body's talking to you, right? It's constantly talking to you.
I've noticed that in the last little while, actually, is that I am becoming hypersensitive to food. I'm
Yes.
moving away from caffeine. I haven't been on that for a long time. Sugar has now become a major issue. Anytime I have anything processed or sugar, I'm actually catching myself going by the fridge going, I need an apple. I'm craving an apple. If I have anything with gluten in it, my stomach hurts. I'm feeling these physical, like it's my body's talking to me, telling me, no, no, not that anymore. No, not that anymore. Um, and then when and then also having physical flare-ups, like I'm having some stuff happening and I'm like, and I share them with you and with Denise and I work on clearing that. It's like trying to understand what my body's trying to tell me.
Mhm. And with that, yeah, there was a big shift in September when I went away there. The caffeine, all that is I got back into my body, right? That was my thing, the discipline of the body. And then listening to what my body likes, can't do the caffeine anymore. Sugar is not my friend. So I totally, we're in alignment there. The gluten, everything is that. And even though I will still taste it, my body says, yeah, no, this doesn't work. And I'm like, please, I really enjoy this. Right?
Oh, I was so pissed off. I went to my mother-in-law's last night. She's an incredible cook. Okay. She makes incredible food. And she had actually baked this apple crumbled cheesecake with a scoop of ice cream on it. I'm looking at it going, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. I'm going to go for it anyways. And I did it. And she had actually replaced a bunch of gluten in there, but there was still some in there. There was a bunch of sugar and it hurt a bit, but I'm like, it was kind of worth it. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, like really?
Well, this is where you can be mindful. So this is where instead of it's going to hurt, you've already programmed your body that you know it's going to not work for you. So this is where I bless the food and I go, okay, you know what? My body is craving chocolate and I really want it. And I know it's not the best, but I'm going to bless this food and I'm going to say thank you. And I'm not going to eat it all, but I'm going to have a taste of it. And then I'm still being able to receive it without the consequences. If I eat too much, then there will be consequences. But now I look at food as it's an offering for the body. It's saying, hey, you know what? I want to be able to have my, cake and eat it too, right? Without, being tortured. So I would, at that moment, I'd go, okay, I'm gonna bless this and thank you, body, for being able to receive that food and what's in there that's nourishing. And then my inner child like, ah, yes, we get it. So so try it because it does work. But if it's like I'm gonna have a cookie, that's fine. But if I'm gonna have 5 cookies, my body's gonna sit there and go, yeah, you kind of that defeated it. You can't bless every cookie thinking you're gonna get the
Okay, good. I'm going to try that because that's one of my things as well. Like if I have a little bit of sugar, if I have a little bit of like Moose Tracks ice cream, that'll kill me. If I have one scoop, I'll eat the whole fucking bucket. It's
Mhm.
gone. I will destroy it. But if I go, I'm going to have a little bit of this, bless it, be mindful, ask for help to allow me just to have that small piece. That's something that I'm going to definitely work on going forward.
Because that's the all or nothing too, right? Because if it's the addiction, right? And that's where all our addictions are if you look at them, they're all or nothing. If you don't have you can't just have one. You can't have one drink. No. I need 6. So I get that feeling. You can't just have one small bowl of ice cream. I need the whole thing because what if it's gone? It's that survival brain, right? So
Right.
tapping in and blessing it.
One of the things I wanted to get into, Tammy, was sharing with the listeners the different entities that you've brought in on some of our sessions, because it's been absolutely um, mind blowing to me, the different entities that have come to see me. So there was um, the owl that appeared over my bed. I told you about the 2-dimensional owl schedule. Oh, and by the way, last night happened again. The one of the beings showed up and I woke up screaming because I saw them in front of my bed, and Aaron's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just saw another one." I'm like, "Ah!" Like,
What do they look like?
it was a more of a person. It was more of an outline of a person, but kind of long hair, I think, ish. But I couldn't
Mhm.
really tell. It wasn't, you can't really see them, but you can sense
Feel.
them. It was
Yes.
like someone over my bed looking at me, scared the hell out of me. Always does, or it has been, anyways, in the past. Um, but these entities that come in, those have been that come to me at night. That hasn't been a result, by the way, for everybody to understand this. That's not a result of me working with Tammy. That's just some extra shit going on the side. I kind of wanted to talk about the beings and the gods and the elementals. And could you talk a little bit about the different kind of people you've or entities you've brought in on a couple of our sessions, so they kind of get a feel for what you're doing with me, so they can make a decision whether they want to start doing some work with you, which I, of course, highly endorse.
So I call them IPs for short, but we have a variety of what we're star seeds, right? So Earth is not the only planet. So we have many other planets that come forward. We have many helpers. You might have heard of Palladians. They really work on our heart center, bringing back us into the heart center. I love working with them because they teach us to remember that love that we are. And then we have like Arcturians, for example. They're my favorite as well. They like to download and process information to get us on our purpose and help us move forward. Right. So there's several. There's the grays, there's avatars, the list goes on. There's a lot of different beings in this world. The ones I really like are like the Lyrian, Syrians. There's just different types that help us with different things in this world. It's interesting, that person that you said that showed up last night, it felt like it was you in another Viking life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah, so it could have been a soul retrieval of someone that you're stepping into that new level.
That feels about right.
Yeah. And so it's just another part of you pulling yourself back, cuz they say that all our lives are parallel, right? Our past lives, our present, and our higher lives, future lives, they're all parallel. So when we're ready to receive the next piece of who we are, right? This is where the star seeds, the Pleiadians, the Lyrians, whoever is coming forward, we don't need to get really stuck in who they are. Really, we just need to be open to receiving them. And people are like, "Oh, are they aliens? What are they?" Well, we're aliens. So it just depends on how you look at them. Right? I didn't wanna see their faces, I just wanted to know how they made me feel. So they have everything has a vibration, and it's that vibration, if we can tune into, we will know whether it feels good or if it doesn't. So if it's not feeling good, that's when I go, "Okay, what is this about?"
I've shared this on previous podcasts and openly with everyone who's in the Viking Academy, that I've found my kind of happy resonance with the Viking gods, with the pagan gods, with talking to Odin and asking Thor to help me and looking to Freya. That has been really uh, incredibly comforting to me. It feels like home when I talk to them, and I can't yet put my finger on it. But sometimes we've done sessions where we've gone deep with the Viking, Norse, the pagan gods on that side, and sometimes you've brought in Poseidon, like from the Greek and the Roman and all of that. Like Poseidon, I remember came in to one of our sessions, and um, it just to me is fascinating to explore all of that and to tap into who the hell is this guy? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's like a kid in a candy store almost. It's like,
Mhm.
it's exciting. Like that. And when you said that about last night, like I remember now, it was, it was, I had that moment of terror that, oh my, and I freaked out, but it doesn't last very long. It's just poof, it's done. And then I fall back asleep. So it's like, it's becoming less traumatic, shall we say, in quotes, and more, oh, here's another entity come to kind of help me fill in another piece of the puzzle.
Yes, exactly. And then when we're more open, because, we're more open to receiving, their information. They want us to go higher. And that's like the elementals. So I talk about them. So the elementals are like, this is why people love nature, because they're the tree people, they're the trolls, the fairies, but they pull us and say, let's get back into nature. And they bring us all, most of my coding is through nature, right? Because I love birds and animals and that. So they give me the codes, what I call, to assist me in moving forward. So it's not just the IPs of those starseed beings. It's all of it. It's all part of it. And if they come in, then you know you're I don't want to say higher being, but they want to work with you because you're here to work with the whole humanity, and you're a voice. So when you're a voice, then you pull in your tribe, you pull in your people, and you help them get there. Right? When I used to say, pay attention to car horns and sirens. There's your yes from the universe. And people are like, okay. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know how many yeses I got yesterday? Right? Because it's just a different wording, right? Different language. But we all can do it. So, somebody who sees that might be scared. So I'll say, okay, you have a Palladian, what's the word I'm looking for? You might have been a Palladian energy, right? So Earth is just one school of many.
Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So
Earth
Earth
is
is
one school.
a one school of many other planets of that, many other beings. And the purpose of them all coming forward now is to get the Earth the way it was supposed to be, which is a loving, like when we're going into that fifth dimension, which is that higher vibration. It's sound, it's music, it's joy, not the heavy dense, which, has been associated with the reptilian energy, which is that lower vibration, that slavery. Let's enslave these humans to be what we want them to be.
I
And
often
then,
have likened it to seeing the human nature as we've got old software in our brains. We need an upgrade. We need an upgrade to our software system because we're still living off of old reptilian brain thinking and, staring at a cell phone and seeing all these things. We think they're saber-toothed tigers coming at us with all this and adrenaline rushes. And no wonder we have so much anxiety and stress. Just to balance that off, I said earlier, are you seeing a bigger awakening? Yes, but at the same time, I'm also seeing the chaos and the stress and the anxiety is raising at the same time. It's like the best of times and the worst of times.
because those are the ones where the chaos has to come to waken people up. Right? Because we like to just live in these little dividers. Oh, everything is good. Everything is well because they told me it's well. So when we take the blinders off, we see the whole picture of the eagle show up. And it's like, okay, so we're not just seeing one little part of it, which most people do. They're looking at the chaos and going, so do I want to be in that vibration? No, that's not why I'm here. So the people who are meant to be in that vibration will be in that vibration. I'm here to get people awakened so that they don't get pulled into that vibration.
And I am one of those people that do not want to get pulled into that vibration again. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I'm ready for waking up. I'm ready for encompassing and embracing my inner Viking and going and exploring this playground. I really see life as a playground. When I'm in the right mindset, when I'm in my, let's put it, when I'm in my heart center, I just get more calm and relaxed. And it's like, oh, let's go play. Let's have some fun. Right?
And that's also the opening of the pineal gland, right? Which expands our consciousness. But if we all have expanded consciousness, then we won't follow the leader. We'll have our own mind, body, soul to make our own decisions. And that's scary for some people. Right?
I love that.
So the more you bring awareness with that consciousness and the more we wake up people, then they're not enslaved anymore to that lower vibration, that low brain. And there will be a lot of people leaving this world in the next few years because they just can't get there or they choose not to. And that's okay because it's going to bring up as the vibration gets higher. Like when you play music, the vibration, when I saw you, I was just like, holy man, like I had to ground myself because you were taking it to a new level, right? Which not everybody wants that level. They're not ready to resonate there, right? So they have to reground, but you were teaching me just ground into it, right? Your whole being was like one of the giants to me. And that is another starseed that was just like, this is how big we can get. Don't stay small, right? So you were showing people that it's safe not to stay small.
That reminds me of being a kid and always wanting to play big and go fun and let's expand, let's grow. Let's always, everything that I've done has always been about let's really make this loud and big. Let's go have fun, right? And along the way, I've seen where those conditioning layers have tempered me down. And then now I'm revisiting it and opening up again, but it's the same energy I had as a child, but expressed more joyously, if that makes sense. Like
Without the suffering.
without the suffering. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. That's what I want for the listener here. The listener, like if you're listening to this, you can have this too. And I love what you said, Tammi, is like, we don't need to follow the leader. We realize that we are the leader. And that was like, I love the fact that that is what the Viking Academy is about. It's like taking control and taking responsibility for your own life and proactively improve yourself and your tribe and make your mark on the world. This is your ride. This is your journey. This is your adventure. And you have helped me so much on that. And we just got started, you and me. You know that.
Yes. You're building a community. And we need that again. We've lost that sense of community because we followed the leader. So you're not just Eric the Viking. You're Eric and you're all of it, right? Because everybody who shows up in that academy is you. At maybe the beginning Eric, the past Eric, maybe the present Eric. Maybe even some of them are going to teach you in that higher sense. So as you build your community coming forward, this is the new way, right? Because we're not here to be separate anymore. That's the big thing. We're programmed to be separate. And we're not here to be separate anymore. Unity is coming forward.
I don't know if there was a better spot to end this podcast than on that note right there, Tammi. That is absolutely beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Before we go, though, where can people find you?
You can catch me on my website at tammig.com, TAMMIG.com. It's the best way for bookings. There is an email as well, but I would just go with the tammig.com.
There you go.
They can book. But if they are curious, it does on my email on my website tell you my email, and you can always send me an email as well.
And for those listeners, if you haven't joined the Viking Academy yet, if you join the Viking Academy, you will have access to Tammi inside the Viking Academy because she is part of this movement to help us wake up from our past conditioning so that we can experience the joy that you so eloquently expressed. And I just love spending every minute with you. I love you absolutely, dearly, wholeheartedly, completely, past, present, and higher self combined into one. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for asking me. I love you too, Eric. It's always a pleasure, and I'm super excited for the future.
Let's go explore. Thanks for listening to the Viking Academy podcast. Make sure to leave us your honest feedback by leaving a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.